Well, Jim, a stressful weekend if you are a wrestling fan running around. Of course, if you're into more wrestling, there were wrestling conventions in different parts of the country. There were all sorts of independent events. But the main event, of course, SummerSlam. According to them, the biggest SummerSlam of all time. 2 nights in East Rutherford, New Jersey, MetLife Stadium. Let's talk about night 1.
Well, it was definitely the longest SummerSlam of all time, and attendance-wise, because they get to count 2 nights, it'd be hard for one of the one-night SummerSlams to have a bigger attendance than a 2-night, wouldn't it? When you get right down to it, if you're just talking factually. What did
Depends
SummerSlam do? SummerSlam in the big SummerSlam they had in the 80s. Where was it? In Wembley Stadium?
That was in 1992. There were only 2 SummerSlams in the 80s. Madison Square Garden for the debut in 88, and of course the second one in East Rutherford, New Jersey, SummerSlam 89, Feel the Heat.
All right, Randy McNally. I'm just saying, in 92, they had 70,000 people or whatever for Bulldog and Brett, right?
That's right, Bulldog and Brett.
Well, is it fair to their incredible achievement to be able to add the total attendance from 2 nights and beat that? That still doesn't seem fair.
Well, the other thing is beyond attendance, and this may sound like a crazy thing to a promoter like you, but beyond attendance, sometimes, what's the biggest event? It's more than just the attendance. It's the actual matches and the things that matter and people are buzzing for. And it didn't feel like this was the biggest SummerSlam ever in that respect.
Well, then that's part of it also is, I've said this before, but on pay-per-view, on television, every moment used to count. And even though what entertained Vince McMahon sometimes wasn't necessarily entertaining to the rest of the world, he got mad when you had TV where nothing was happening and nothing entertaining was going on at that particular time. They had a wonderful hour and 45-minute fucking show each night. It just took them 3 hours and 15 minutes to do it. But I think part of it, you can't get a flow between the commercials and the travelogues and the spots for the sake of the spots and the little advertising placements and the reads and the guests and the drawn out entrances just by the fact that they got to walk fucking 3.5 miles in a stadium to get to the ring. It brings the energy down. And then there was a couple of big things that you mentioned, Brian, where people wanted to see what was going to happen with Cena and Cody. They wanted to see, to some extent, what was going to happen with Jelly Roll, I'm sorry to say. But because it was spread out over, it was diluted so much by just let's have 12 matches and we can have everybody on the card because we've got 2 nights to fill. There's no urgency anymore, and there's no goddamn this. We used to attack angles even in the 90s WWF days, much less in the 80s when it was really important. Attack angles and issues and the card, and if we got it right, because it meant success or failure and feast or famine and bologna or fucking filet. And now they're making so much goddamn money. And I'm not talking about the boys. I'm talking about everybody. They're making so much money. They can just do this shit. And let's spend a couple minutes on pyro here. Boom, 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 boom. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you understand what I am saying?
I do. That's the way I felt too. I mean, there are moments. WWE is now built on giving people big moments, big surprise pops, more than the matches or anything else. There are certain things that click, but a lot of stuff is just happening and people are staring at it, but it doesn't seem as hot. Doesn't seem, you use the word urgent. It doesn't seem to be a lot of that. I've said it for a while, this whole year, since the beginning, since the Royal Rumble, has kind of felt off. Some of that's The Rock. Some of that's the Cena heel turn. But it's more than that. They're almost just giving you enough to propel things to the next thing, but they're barely giving you anything like they used to, it seems like. Meanwhile, they're charging more, they're selling more, they're doing great business. It may be down a little bit from the peak, but they're doing extraordinary business and not giving away too much.
Well, and what do you say, down a little bit from the peak as far as selling live event tickets, maybe, but the TV money and all the sponsorships and the bribes that the cities are giving them to please come here and all that stuff. That's why I say it's just, if you, every once in a while, you'll have a good little wrestling match if you can just wade through all this stuff. And speaking of which, who is Breland? Who is Breland who sang the national anthem? It's like listening to one of the Chipmunks slowed down.
I'm not too familiar with Mr. Breland.
Why couldn't they have had Cardi B? Because she's a singer, right? Why couldn't she have done the national anthem and we could have saved some time because she was the host? But she's a singer who didn't sing.
She's more of a rapper than a singer, and also, rapping in the studio is a little different than singing not even the national anthem, America the Beautiful.
Or whatever the fuck it was. Well, Breland did it. It wasn't like just because he couldn't sing didn't meant anything to him.
It's so awkward, too, when they have some people like Breland, and there were two young ladies who did a country rendition of national anthem again, of God Bless America the next night. And then later on, they show them in the crowd, I guess before they're shuffled away so someone else could sit in those seats. The crowd doesn't react. The crowd reacted a little bit more to WWE icon Stephanie McMahon, naturally. But, like, the people they have singing there, they don't react to. And then they go to, like, a commercial for something else. I mean, there was a lot of commercials, and some of it seemed like had nothing to do with wrestling at all. It's just like, oh, this is a commercial. And, again, they're with a company that represents a lot of different people, a lot of different talent, and there's a lot going on.
There's no skyline of East Rutherford, New Jersey they showed the view of New York City from East Rutherford. I've seen that many times, but back to Cardi B. I'd heard the name before. So nobody could say I didn't know who Cardi B was. I knew that there was a Cardi B. I just had no visual reference and I've never heard her speak. So I have two questions. One, is that who Mercedes Moon is trying to be? And secondly, is her gimmick that she screams incoherently at people that she's never met just because she's so excited?
I don't think Mercedes is based on her. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. And secondly, I don't think she does too many promos, so I don't think that's really her gimmick. I think she just... Again, these people sing and do their thing, but not too many people give them a mic and say, here, go out there and do a promo. So she was excited. She seemed to be into it.
She was wearing a preposterous dress. She said nothing, contributed nothing, screamed like a banshee. We had to listen to some of her rotten song, and then it was over. And she couldn't even be bothered to sing the rotten song on her way out. What good is she? What did she do here? What purpose did she serve? Again, did they sell a bunch of tickets when they said, oh, Cardi B is going to be here? Oh, shit, got to go now. Wouldn't have touched it with a goddamn 10-foot pole before.
No, they used to use any celebrity they could, like in the old days, but they would really hype them up to be bigger than you thought they were. Like, Bob Uecker will be there. You would think Bob Uecker was like the biggest actor in the world. And he was great. But they would hype people up. And I think the goal was that people would actually want to see this person somehow involved in the wrestling. Liberace, Muhammad Ali, whatever. They barely built up the Cardi B thing. They announced she was hosting a while back. And I don't think anyone gave a shit. And it's not even about her at that point.
Well, that was pretty much it for her, right? The open thing here, because I tried to skip through.
They showed her in the crowd.
That's where she ought to be. So then we started out with the tag team match. And it was a bright ass day in New Jersey. It doesn't have the nice ambiance till it gets dark up there. But by the time that Jey Uso yeeted through the entire stadium and got to ringside, And thank God he must have felt like, because thank God Roman was next, because he got like 5 more minutes to breathe, Jay. And Roman was in about 5 minutes later. And then here came the Bronze, Reed and Breaker. And they rang the bell for the first match. It was 20 minutes into the show. But again, I think they started off with probably definitely the future of the company and probably the best athletic display, and they kind of tapered down from there over the course of the weekend. But I love Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker as a tag team with Paul Heyman. And whether or not Seth Rollins, we'll get to that, whether or not Seth Rollins was involved in the group, that strengthens it. But if you made Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed the tag team champions and make them a regular tag team while Seth Rollins is in a group as the world champion, and then later on, there can be tension because they've clearly, well, first, with the tag team champions, then they could just mow down all of the other tag teams that were in that stupid ladder match on the roster because they've made all of them equal and meaningless on the mid card. Just beat them all. And then top guys would have to start teaming up to try to face and conquer Reed and Breakker. And then that might even be something that renovated the Usos for a short run to help Jimmy out a little bit, if nothing else. There's my yard mowers. But then you'd have a set of tag team champions that meant something, and you'd have some action in the tag team division that you could put at the top of the cards. And at the same time, then, because they've clearly placed Bron Breakker ahead of Bronson Reed in the pecking order, because they know he is the future star and he can talk and blah, 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 then eventually you could have issues between Bron Breakker and Seth Rollins over who is the dominant guy in the group, much less tag team or single or whatever. And then you could do whatever you wanted out of that. Do you see where I'm going with this, Brian? I like the idea that they could do something to elevate these guys and put them in this group and elevate the tag team title at the same time. And, with tag teams like Roman Reigns and fucking Jey Uso, then as baby faces to challenge them or the Usos or whatever, you might start making people think the tag team belts are important again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll just say it here. I'm kind of not enthused about more Rollins. I was really looking forward to him being out for a long time with a knee injury. Even after we started thinking it could be a work, I was like, no, I really just want him off Raw for an extended period of time.
I had really sold myself on liking the idea that Paul gave the case to Bron Breakker.
It would have been better. Hey, yeah, listen, if night one ended with Bron Breakker coming out there to cash in, I would have been happier. I know people were happy because the heel whose song they like to sing won. But I think I was really looking forward to it.
God damn, in that case, Elton John could have been a hell of a wrestler. But anyway, this tag team match, I'm not going to go blow by blow. But they all four know what they're doing to some extent. Jay, again, the timing issues and the whole thing, but they're over. Bron Breakker is the future of the business. Again, they set up at one point, what I thought was going to be the hottest hot tag that I'd seen in a while in this whole company. Jay was about to make it to Roman and the heels with perfect timing. Right as Jay dove, they jerked Roman off the apron of the ring so that Jay missed. So it was a great hot tag attempt and a great foil. But then when Jay turned around and a minute later DDT'd Bronson Reed and Roman got back up to the apron and they just did simultaneous tags. It was a big pop for Roman anyway because they wanted to see him come in. But they made the perfect hot tag just seconds earlier, except they didn't actually make it. It was a false hot tag. And then the real hot tag was blah, simultaneous. There you go. I was like, fuck. But nevertheless, the same shit. The pattern starts where there's the big dives. And Roman hit a big dive where he actually went over both of the heels almost. It took a giant backdrop to the floor. And it got back up. And they teased Braun Breaker and Roman Reigns, which everybody wants to see at some point. But then they would get, broken off into some other combination. But there is some more dives where Bronson Reed, I think it was, dove on both of the baby faces and went right through them face first. But thankfully he was okay. And the Braun Breaker brought out the old Steiner Bulldog. They gave it to Uso. But it just...
What'd you think of the Roman dive where he cleared both Braun and Bronson? And
well, yeah, no, that's the one where he took that big... It looked like he took a giant backdrop, just a big double backdrop over to the floor. But that's the thing is that they're all doing these fucking things and they've set in a pattern that nothing can stop anybody. And I liked Braun Breaker. He had taken the straps down once to fucking, go crazy. And then he got mad and he put them back up to take them back down again. I mean, this kid is going to make tens of millions of dollars. It's insane. I haven't seen anybody this good in fucking 20 years. But nevertheless, after all of that, they almost kill each other and they fucking, the finishes over and over. Then Uso hit Reed with a super kick and splashed him 1, 2, 3. So I wrote at the bottom, a pleasure to watch Braun Breaker, so good, so young. Rest of it, too many stunts and a little long, over 20 minutes. I forgot about the spear through the barrier. They did that. Remember when you had never seen anybody get speared through the barrier? Oh shit, look at that.
It's every week.
And now it's the same place every time too. And they think I know when people go to see the fucking Rolling Stones in concert, they want to hear Jumpin' Jack Flash, but how can the most shocking thing that's ever happened happen at every show? But nevertheless, I'm being nitpicky already. Brian, your thoughts while I regain my composure.
I thought it was okay. It was the opening match. They wanted to get people going. Braun Breaker, I agree, so impressive. Jey Uso was really pissing me off. He was just calling spots. He was just talking to the person while throwing punches. Just standing there talking. It's a problem show-wide. Cena's always been bad. I even saw Gunther do it. Is it that guys are sloppier now or lazier now or just don't protect it now? Or is it that everything being in HD and mic'd so well, even though it's more visual than audio, that we see it more than ever before?
A combination of all those things. Because you definitely, that's one thing. When we got to World Class, me and the Midnight Express in Dallas in 85, the guys that told us they've got microphones on the ring posts. And that was one good thing about working with the Fantastics every night for 6 months. We may not have gotten matches with the Von Erichs where the big money was, but we'd have to talk to Bobby and Tommy. They didn't call shit. We knew it already. We just did it every night, right? But that was an anomaly at the time where you didn't have microphones and especially like they do now, all around the ring, on the posts and other blah, blah, blah. So part of it is that, yes, you can hear more of it now, but still the visually HD has a little bit to do with it. But when they've had great camera work for 25, 30 years, whatever, and guys have gotten, I think, more in the habit of it just being accepted or something they have to do because they're having to go from one pre-planned thing to another. 30 years ago, you could have seen some guys calling spots, but they weren't calling that many spots because there's a difference between calling spots and reminding someone what they have to do next and shit. We don't have time to sit here in this chin lock and hide it. We're rushing now. So 30 years ago, the guys were actually calling logical, simple shit for the most part that they could hide and that there wasn't pressure on them to do this ridiculous and who's going to be in the right place and there's 15 people need to catch me or is the furniture here or whatever. So that's causing guys, I think, to have to talk more. You can hear it better. You can see it better. And guys are honestly just looser about it and not as concerned about it as we would have been back in the day when you'd have got fired for it. Does that make any sense?
It does.
Well, and it made more sense than the rest of this show. Now, but anyway, so that was that match. And then they had another match. The women's tag team title was up, Brian, with Roxanne Perez and Rochelle defending against Charlotte and Alexa Bliss. One person on each team 6 feet tall, the other person's 4'6". People like Charlotte now because she's with Alexa. This is what the reason why they're cheering Charlotte now is because they like this tag team. To me, it looks like Celine Dion or Celine Dion, whatever her name is. Celine Dion and Courtney Love is what I'm trying to say. Is it the odd couple pairing that they like is what I'm trying to find out. Because why do they suddenly like Charlotte now? Because she's teamed up with this little Chucky doll carrying pixie.
Is that a question? Yes.
Yes.
I think.
Why would that be?
I think Charlotte needed that, whether it's Alexa Bliss or someone else. Charlotte needed to be put with someone the fans are predisposed to cheering for whatever reason, to help her, and it has. And it's kind of, again, it's exactly what she needed, and it's bringing out, the best in her, I think. Not having to deal with that.
Well, I watched a few minutes. They were going 100 miles an hour, but they were doing it well. It wasn't as sloppy or indie level as you would see the women's matches in the other company. And everybody looked like an athlete, except Alexa Bliss cannot weigh 100 pounds, can she? Is she 5 feet tall?
You're asking a lot of questions, I would assume.
Roxanne Perez looks like a Luger next to her.
She may be in the range of 5 feet, maybe a little bit bigger than that, and maybe a little bit bigger than 100, but that's the general range, I would assume.
All right, well, what happened here? Because I don't know.
Charlotte and Alexa Bliss won the tag titles to a huge pop from the fans, and now Roxanne and Raquel, who I've enjoyed together, I think that's actually one of the best things on WWE TV right now. Now the Judgment Day does not have the women's tag titles.
Well, that's a shame.
And those were Liv's tag titles.
Now, see, just by the way, so that everybody doesn't think that, he just irrationally praises Charlotte. I didn't watch this because I don't care about the women's tag team title. But I would like to see Charlotte back in singles competition at some point again against like one of 2 or 3 other girls on the roster. Otherwise, there's a lot of girls on this roster, as we've seen. All right. Are you ready, Brian, for you've heard of the shot clock in basketball. We've got the bump counter on Karrion Kross. Did you keep a bump counter?
It was taking too long. So I gave up my account somewhere in there after like 2.
Well, I kept it. And by the way, the entrance with Karrion Kross and Scarlett, it's shot well and it's very creative, but it seems like a kind of a waste of time he's going to be where he is right now, isn't he?
if they wanted to elevate him, they've had a few chances, it seems like lately, and they decided to not do it. It's one of those things where he's getting himself over with the fans, and WWE saying, not now. Just not now.
Not now, not now. Well, Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross, and of course, as we did last time, because it was brought to our attention, that the rumor was, we don't know if this is fact, but a lot of people saying it, but the rumor was that they didn't want to push Karrion Kross because he was afraid to take bumps. As silly as that sounds, it's unusual. One would think that choosing that line of work, you'd already kind of be past that, but maybe with the stupid shit they do with furniture, you may have something. If he told them in the past, I'm not going to fall through a bunch of fucking tables, I'm a wrestler. Well, then in that case, I would have respect for him. But nevertheless, for the sake of it, we thought that last time we would check and see. And he went through the entire match with Sami, who is very easy to work with, but he went through the whole match and took like 3 fucking legitimate bumps, right? You remember? And what did we say last week when we previewed this? I said, okay, I'm going to say 5. Did I say 5?
Maybe. I think I said 9. You may have said 5. I don't remember.
I think because it was SummerSlam, I figured he'd go to 5, whatever. But, well, here we go. Ding, ding, ding. This is every time that he left his feet, except like if he one time he slipped and kind of went to a knee. I didn't count that, right? We're talking every time he left his feet, whether it was to deliver an offensive or defensive move, we're going to list it. And you're going to notice something, Brian, because I noticed something now that's added new depth to this potential fucking rumor we've heard. Number 1, he got clotheslined over the top rope. He landed on his feet and then collapsed to the floor. But that's keep track of that. That's 1 bump he took, right? Number 2, he's on the floor. Sami jumped up on the barrier and did the moonsault, and he caught Sami, and as Sami landed on his feet to the side, Karrion Kross kind of went down easy to the floor.
Yeah, is that a bump?
Well, that's technically he caught the guy on the moonsault and went down, so that's a bump, but it's very easy. Very easy. So there's 2. But then he gave Sami Zayn a Death Valley driver. And he gave Sami Zayn a suplex. And he hit the ground really hard on giving those, but we can't count them because they ain't bumps. He didn't take a bump, he gave a bump. And then he took a standard flat back bump from Sami's axe hand. That's number 3. And then he took a flat back bump off the axe handle again. There's number 4, right? Then he gave Sami a fisherman suplex. If you know, every time he gives these things, boy, he throws the guy and he lands with authority. But when the guy's giving him something and he's just taking it, he just boop. So then after the fisherman suplex, he took a clothesline and took another flat back bump. There's 5. So now that's my estimate. And then he came back and gave a Saito suplex and a bam, just fucking planted Sami. And then Scarlett handed Kross a 3-foot-long, quote-unquote, lead pipe that he was supposed to try to secrete underneath him until she could draw the referee. Like when Tommy Young used to say Brute Bernard was like just a crazy man. It would go out and get a board from underneath the ring and stick it in the back of his tights, and he'd be sticking 6 inches up over his head. He'd get back in the ring and tell him, "Don't see it." So he's got a 3-foot lead pipe. She draws the referee. He swings it. Sami ducks and hits the Blue Thunder Bomb. And there's number 6. And he had to take that son of a bitch because that's Sami's deal. And then as he's selling Scarlett comes around and hands the pipe to Sammy. I'm saying, well, what a fucking bitch. With girls like that, just hand the guy that wants to beat you up a lead pipe. It's part of the mind games that they're playing, which don't make any sense. Because then, if it was a normal human, Sammy would have just hit the fucking guy with the lead pipe and then shoved it up her ass and called it a day. But instead, he's thinking about it. And then he tossed it out and cross schoolboyed him 1-2. And then Sammy suplexed cross into the turnbuckle where he kind of hit. So that's 7. So I'm already shot. And then he took the crumble bump on the haluva kick 1, 2, 3. So you were closer. You said 9. There was 8. I said 5. But the only times that he ever actually hit the fucking ground hard besides the Blue Thunder Bomb were when he was given something instead of taking it.
And it was 8 last time too?
No, I think last time it was, I'm trying to remember what number we came up with. I think it was only 5 or 6, but only 2 or 3 of them were actually legitimate bumps. The other were Ox Bakers. So point is, it's fascinating until I see this guy get backdropped over the top rope through a goddamn refrigerator case. I'm going to be convinced that he's the best worker in the business because he's having these matches and nobody ever sees that he never takes a fucking decent bump. So bravo to him.
No one ever sees him get a decent push either. Again, it seemed like he was getting over. The fans have been into him. He lost to Sammy last time too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, hopefully Sammy said it's over. Hopefully it really is, because I kind of don't want to see Sammy for a while.
It will never be over.
And Carrion needs, if they're going to do something with him, now's the time. Either now or never. It's now or never.
Well, I think they need to carry on with Carrion. Carry on my wayward son. Oh. Yeah.
All right. Well, what was next on this summertime extravaganza?
Well, one of the many women's championships was up for grabs there with Jade Cargill and Tiffy Storm. Our girl Tiffy time.
Tiffy Stratton.
Tiffy Stratton. Yes, Tiffy. Well, I thought she was Lance's daughter. I didn't know.
There was a storm because Jade. She brings a storm with her because she looks like Storm from the X-Men.
Well, I thought it was because she spent the night in a haunted house and it turned her hair gray. It was a dark and stormy night. Anyway, I'd like, this is your regular reminder. The ring announcer's hair is ridiculous. I would fine her if she showed up to television with that Bride of Frankenstein do on.
You know, I understand why she left, and I understand people wanting to do their own creative things, especially if they are a creative person. And obviously her husband isn't there anymore, and that plays into it. But I really do miss Samantha Irvin on these shows. She really did. She really did amp things up the right way without making... I know people thought she made herself the show, but I kind of thought it was the opposite.
Well, at least she didn't have that hair and she was good at it. But why don't Shawty want to do the ring announcing no more?
Well, she's working.
That's what we need to find out.
She's working on her music.
Well, let her sing them. And in this corner, in this magic moment, we have the contender. See, it could be a whole new thing.
This magic moment. I don't know how you threw that in the middle of this. The Drifters. But let's go. Let's drift back to this review.
I could have been singing from under the boardwalk. So Tiffy is back to being a heel, even though they liked her a while back. And I know they're going to say, oh, Cornette, you don't pay attention to the women's matches. They did this. And you're right. I don't care.
Was she a heel?
Well, she's the heel because Jade Cargill was the babyface.
I don't think Tiffy's a heel.
Well, she was
I don't know why I'm calling her Tiffy. Tiffany Stratton.
Well, whatever the fuck. Nevertheless, they did fairly well. This was Jade's best match, I guess, ever, probably, because she didn't just, go off the reservation or noticeably, confused or whatever. It wasn't the most complicated thing ever, but they did a number of things. So there was a pretty rotten looking yay boo. But Tiffy did the moonsault, and Jade raised the feet and hit her finish. They got the foot on the ropes. And then, of course, Jade had to try to do the finish off the top, and Tiffany had to help climb up there, obviously, because they've all got to do these top rope things that there's no conceivable way you could do without cooperation. But at least she did the forward roll and foiled Jade, and then out of kind of sort of nowhere, it seemed like, hit the moonsault, boom, 1, 2, 3. But I didn't know whether they would beat Jade or not, but I think they've come to realize that she still needs help, and Tiffy may be not only more accomplished and more further along, but also just as popular. And but at least Jade didn't jade it up too bad. Obviously they had practiced it beforehand and walked through it many times or whatever, but it wasn't rotten. Am I getting easier in my old age?
No, I thought it was pretty good. And again, I expected the worst. I don't know why. Maybe that's unfair, but I thought it was pretty good. Jade getting pinned cleanly says something. It was a good competitive match. Obviously, they may not see Jade the same way they did when they first got her from AEW, but it doesn't mean she can't do other things, but she just is not going to be Bianca or Rhea or any of the top people, probably.
Now, how old is she? Did we ever talk about that?
I mean, we may have a long time ago. Hold on.
The flying fingers of Google.
33.
By the time, because we won't count any of her time in AEW against her because she wasn't learning anything. She's been there for about a year and a half now. By the time she really gets any kind of decent experience, she's going to be in her late 30s. But she looks in wonderful shape. I'm sure she takes care of herself and jogs regularly. So who knows? Maybe she'll get it one of these days.
All right, you know what that means. SummerSlam continues.
Oh, all right.
And we are still in night one, and now we got a good... Come on, now it got you going. I got a good attitude going. Night one continues.
Well, let's talk about Jelly Roll. You want to talk about Jelly Roll? I have to, it's an accomplishment. We have to recognize the effort that the man made. He lost 240 pounds to get to 299 pounds. Did you hear this story?
I heard them talking about his weight loss, yes.
And I don't think he's been doing it. He didn't start at the Performance Center and lose 240 pounds in 3 months or whatever, obviously. But one of the big feature matches for SummerSlam was Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre against Randy Orton and Jelly Roll. Now, I will say in his defense, he does work better than the other Jelly. He is at least somewhat believable. Jelly Roll's Jelly Roll's wife is named Bunny XO. Did you see Bunny, Brian?
I'm not familiar.
Are you talking to me on mute?
I'm not familiar with her. I don't know anything about Bunny.
You didn't see her when they got.
I saw her there, and that was the first. That was the first time I ever saw or heard of her in my life.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Did you see her there? Because she's a podcast host. She's our competition. You ought to know who the fuck she is.
Better watch out, Bunny.
If you took a picture of Jelly Roll and you took a picture of Bunny XO, would you put them together and say, yeah, I bet these two people would be married? Not trying to criticize either one of them.
we'll get back to the match in 1 second, and this isn't anything about Jelly Roll the person, because he actually seems like a very nice guy. He actually seems like a perfectly fine, good person.
He does. You think somebody held him down and put all them tattoos on his face?
Well, I guess musically is my issue, and some of these characters. My biggest hope in life is that somewhere right now there's just a group of kids that will grow up and it'll be that era's punk rock, and they'll just rebel against all of this sound, all of these people. Just, it's completely out of step with, I don't know, with me and with others. There has to be a punk rock for now. There has to be kids saying, fuck all this country glam wannabe rap bullshit. Fuck it all. And fuck these people. We need real people.
I bet you from the looks of Bunny XO, she said, I'll fuck it all.
Man, they used to at least have good gimmick names. John Doe. Oh, okay. That's good. Bunny X, and now it's just letters put together. You don't even know how you're supposed to pronounce it.
See, you're behind the times, Brian. You're old.
Goodbye. Yeah, you're right, I am. And goodbye to all these people. That's what I say. I need just somewhere, some kid has to come up with good songs and say, fuck you to the system and these people. Write about these people. Write about, get off my TV, you people. Just write that song. Well, there you go.
I want to know why you don't look like Bunny XO.
Bunny XO.
She's a podcast host. How come I don't get her? I get you. Do you think, how much money does Jelly have in his role?
I don't know. You know, the money right now is in touring. And I believe he's been touring for a while, and I believe he's opened for some big acts, so he's probably made some good money.
Well, to keep Bunny in her podcasts, he better. Holy mackerel.
He made enough money to say, I'm going to walk away from this for a while and move to Florida to go to the training facility.
Walk away from all of what?
Bunny
the jelly or the rolling?
Bunny and the road and the band.
Looks like Bunny went with him. If I was him, I wouldn't let Bunny out of my sight. Should we talk about this match?
We better.
Oh, God damn it. And again, Logan Paul, again, he is he's incredible because he's got to the point now where he knows how to bounce off the guy already. Because here was the thing, with Jelly's offense for a celebrity wasn't that bad because the other guys were so good they could bounce off of him, they could feed him, they could bump, they could be in the right place. If you notice, Jelly was most of the time when he was doing things actively, was standing in the same place and other people were coming to him and etc. And that wasn't horrible. But every time it's something that required experience or knowledge or just being good at this, mainly when he was on defense, he couldn't sell. He was trying, but he sold like a guy that can't work. It's awkward. It's stiff body movements. There's no flow. But, you know, when a guy never has had a match in front of people and you're trying to get him to work with two of the top guys in the business in front of 50,000 people, he wasn't the most offensive thing I saw all weekend was they can't have a goddamn match in this company without destroying an entire Home Depot. But, you know, while I would have much preferred him as a special manager to counteract the evil Bobby the Brain Heenan, that would have been lovely. He's wrestling, but it wasn't as bad as it could be, but it's still kind of preposterous, I guess. I don't know. Compared to some of the other stuff in the following night, this wasn't nearly the worst thing. Of course, he did get blown up doing all that stuff, but anyway, what happened? I can't remember. Oh, yeah. Logan Paul splashed Jelly through the fucking desk at ringside, so that could be the viral moment. And everybody was going, oh, look what Jelly Roll did. Jelly Roll fucking laid there. Logan Paul, he flew 25 feet.
It was a frog splash.
That guy's insane.
Yeah, no, he's incredible. He's one of the great naturals we've ever seen.
But I don't know if I would give Jelly Roll any credit except for being stupid enough to lay there underneath it because he thought, oh, wow, this will get me over with the boys.
Hey, that was my biggest problem with the match. I liked the match. I actually thought it was all working and the fans were into it. And Jelly Roll, I think, did a really good job. But the 10 minutes of him selling that and then walking out of there where they convinced me he was about to keel over and die. And then for him to make a comeback. I thought that was too much for someone who's not a wrestler.
That's when they leaped fully over the great white shark, is what you're saying. Because again, he didn't do bad. And Orton did a lot of stuff and the blah, blah, blah. The big splash, boom. They're carrying him out or taking him out, helping him out. And that's when the heels just did nothing forever but laugh at him as they're so slowly taking him out that you know he's not leaving. And then he turned around and he wanted to come back and got up to the apron and made then I'm like, okay, now we can't even hurt a goddamn formerly fat, now just chubby singer. And he makes a comeback. And the clothesline and the choke slam and the Bubba slam. And the people were buying it. But, he basically boom, boom, boom. Well, finally, Orton RKO'd Drew and Logan Paul posted Orton and then splashed Jelly 1, 2, 3. So they beat him, but not until after he made a comeback like he was Dusty Rhodes in the Miami Beach Convention Center. Yeah. But it was an attraction.
He got pinned. He seemed to have the right spirit about the whole thing. I thought he wasn't bad in there. And again, the length of time selling for him to make the comeback, I mean, even though he got pinned, I thought that was too much, but Logan Paul is so impressive.
Yeah.
He's just so impressive. And I actually ended up really enjoying this match.
Well, then maybe that made up for some of
You didn't like it at all just because of the celebrity? Or
No. That's what I'm saying is I didn't want to like it. He wasn't as bad as I was afraid he might be. It did get over with the people. They did the right shit up until the time that he was murdered and still had to come back and get another comeback. But, I just don't know if it was on a more local level. And I can see, an old-fashioned heel team like Wayne Ferris and Larry Latham taking bumps for the, fat local singer or whatever. But it's come to this.
Yeah, but he was the smallest person in the ring. That shocked me too. Drew towers over him. Orton towers over him. Logan may have been the same height, if not a little bit taller than him. He was the smallest guy in there.
Well, but now wait, you're measuring wrong. Instead of from the ground up, measure from the belt buckle around.
Oh. See, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, in some occasions they've won with Jelly Roll, with Bad Bunny. Whatever you want to say, they took their celebrity. They came in with the right attitude. They took it seemed like more seriously than some of the people who work there, who were just ready to break kayfabe left and right. And then there's Travis Scott, who came there with the attitude, smacked the champion in the fucking face, and then never came back again.
I bet one of these days Cody's just going to hunt him down on the street somewhere to get that fucking receipt because he thought he was going to get it in a ring.
I bet you some wrestler will one day.
Well, anyway, are you ready for the main event, Brian, of night one for the World Championship? One of them, at least. CM Punk and Gunther. I will say that the stadium looks better after dark. I've got to mention that. And we were 2.5 hours in. It wasn't that long of a show. The people were up for it. The crowd had been somewhat mild in a lot of spots, except for the holy shit moments, and they loved a Jelly Roll. But this, again, it started, I was really liking things, and then sometimes they take a turn. But it was the first wrestling match of the night, actually, where they started locking up and shit and wrestling, and Punk was working an arm. And I see what they were going for because of what was going to happen at the end. But they had to, they were telling the story that Punk just got the shit kicked out of him through this whole thing. He would still keep fighting, but he would get turned back. And finally, after a long and vicious war, he would win by the skin of his teeth and have absolutely nothing left. But I still think they could have told this story about 10 or 12 minutes shorter, don't you? When it came down to it.
It took a while. It took a while. And I mean, at one point, Punk was down on the ground for such a long time talking to the referee. I was like, did something go wrong? But then everything continued as normal, but it took a while. It seemed like they were drawing it out.
Again, love Gunther. And it's his style that he's the dominant physical guy and that the other guy fights from underneath, the baby face. And Punk did that fine. He sells. You can feel the pain because of the face that he makes and the body language. And Gunther's chops are vicious, but Punk would fight back, and Gunther would bully him and trash talk him. And everything that they did made sense. Everybody reacted to it in the proper ways. And both guys did their trademark stuff. It's just, it went so long, possibly because they felt they had to because of the afterbirth they were doing. But otherwise, and the one spot, Gunther climbed up on the ringside desk to gloat, and Punk jerked his feet out from under him, and bam, he went down and rolled under the desk and came back out bleeding. Poor Gunther. He didn't want to be seen, but that must mean he's not confident in his sleight of hand. So there is possibly a small notch knocked out of his armor. If I could only think of another way to say that.
They sold it as the blood coming from his nose, that it was his nose.
Well, and he was selling it good too, because covering his nose and trying to, so that part, it looked, and that was a pretty nice little touch there. But nevertheless, they got into it from there with the Punk made the comeback, the elbow off the top. Gunther got the sleeper. Punk got under it, hit a GTS. And then fucking Gunther staggered, but he didn't go down. So Punk got under him and hit another one. Boom, 1, 2, 3, and won the belt and got a huge pop. That worked just fine. And he's the new champion, and he's crying. You can see the tears. He's handed the belt. He hugs the belt. The people are chanting CM Punk. Gunther is rolled out to attend to his bloodiness. And suddenly, burn it down. They did it anyway. And Seth comes out on crutches and a knee brace, but of course, then he drops the crutches, takes the brace off. And I got a bunch of people on Twitter saying, see, Brian was right. They did it. And I apologize for being wrong. I had no idea that many experienced, bright, creative people, including Heyman, would sacrifice a network TV special to do really bad, rotten, awkward television on purpose for the sake of the particular cash in that they just did here. I'm not opposed to the cash in. It was perfect time because Punk was beat to shit and a blah, blah, blah. But to go to all that trouble of stinking the joint out to make people believe it was real, to show them that it wasn't.
What about working the boy? What about working the...
Well, they're working it well. Most, like I said at the time, I can understand working the boys these days, because if you didn't, I'm surprised everybody's personal phone number's not out on Twitter. These bunch of loose-lipped bastards. But for something as insignificant as that, and then when people knew about it anyway, or thought they knew about it, or everybody was talking about it, but I was wrong in that I didn't believe that they would purposely do rotten television on a network special just to do this. If they'd have done it in some type of way where it didn't stink the show up, then I would be just happy as a clam.
Right before the Goldberg retirement match.
Right before the Goldberg retirement match, which then turned around and the end of that stunk the show up where they didn't even fucking get the speech. But nevertheless.
And Jim, one more thing about Rollins coming out there. Again, isn't part of the problem he's doing this all babyface style? He comes out there and dramatically turns around, drops the crutches, removes the knee brace, all for pops.
Yeah.
While they sing his music. Isn't that part of the problem? How could you be a heel if everything you do is a babyface? Or babyface style?
Well, I don't think they care anymore because they're just doing holy shit over and over. What's a guy going through furniture, or he's not injured after all? Maybe he isn't. We don't. There was no sneakiness and underhandedness in what they did here. And it's hard to get heat on a guy, number one, when everybody likes to sing his song, but when they've told people, oh, he's injured, he's going to be out for months. Well, they don't want him to be hurting out for months. So when he comes back, yes, they're cheering. Oh, he's back. He's not hurt after all. Yay. Now he'll go in and beat up CM Punk. Beat him over the head with a briefcase 7 times. Give him the curb stomp 1, 2, 3. Now they've seen a happening. I don't know if it got that much heat. But you see what I'm saying is when they've told, the only other thing they could have said, well, unfortunately, he's dead. You'll never see him again because he's died. And then the next show, he's, oh, thank God he's not dead.
And now we get more Punk Rollins.
Yes.
Is that what you want?
And
is that what you want?
That's the thing is, I was kind of hoping down deep in my little heart of hearts that it would be Paul handing the briefcase to Braun Breaker. And when Seth did come back after a number of months as a babyface to get his property back from his evil fucking backstabbing former manager, you could get Seth Rollins as a babyface and Braun Breaker for the world title. That I kind of liked.
And they set something up too. I mean, if you think about it, Gunther lost the title and then immediately Punk is screwed. They also set up dissension between Gunther and the Heyman group with Braun Breaker on Raw.
Well, and here's another problem, because when Heyman's other guys came in to celebrate, Braun had his knee wrapped up and was limping somewhat. So hopefully they didn't.
There was footage that was going around of him limping backstage after his match.
Again, a lot of stunts. I didn't see anything in the ring that should have injured him. So is it all these goddamn stunts?
At this point, if anyone in the Heyman group cries knee injury, are you going to believe him?
Well, and there's the problem also.
Yeah, and again, John Pollock had the story. He was told exactly what was going to happen with Rollins going down with a knee injury. And that's exactly what played out. So we'll see where they go. Seth Rollins, the new either world champion or WWE. What is he? Is he the world champion? World champion.
World champion.
And of course, Jim, after the first full day of SummerSlam, nonstop wrestling action in the sun, you may want a good night's sleep. You may be amped up and you may say, I need a little bit of help to get a great night's sleep tonight. And we know someone who could help all the listeners.
Well, it's not someone, it's something, Brian. Get the grammatical verbiage correct. It's a thing, it's a product, it's a concoction that you can use to make sure that you get the good sleep. Because after you've been hearing that pyro in that stadium all night, you got that ringing in your head, you can't sleep. Even when you're trying to count sheep, every time the sheep goes over the fence, it gets shot down by a piece of pyro. So you need to go to the Beams Dream Powder, because the Dream Powder, we've talked about the all-natural sleep blend with science-backed ingredients designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. And you don't have to worry about sheep being shot in your sleep. You know, you're going to sleep the silence of the sheep.
We don't...
See,
we don't guarantee what you will dream about. We can guarantee a good night's sleep.
Well, if you're dreaming about sheep, I'm telling you, there may be some type of perverted situation in your childhood. But
I don't know
folks,
what goes on over there. But also,
we
delicious.
talked about the science of the lambs. Now we're talking about the silence of the sheep, because it'll just be quiet and peaceful. Dee, 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 dee. See that kind of tune? When you take the Beam Dream Powder, you're going to be sleeping in silence, like in a cocoon of sensory deprivation, where all you're doing is you're sleeping, you're relaxing, you're recharging your body. And unlike Brian, other sleep aids, no next day grogginess. Boom, your eyes open up. It's like somebody hit you with an electric charge. You're ready to take on the day. As a matter of fact, Stacy takes this stuff all the time. She subscribes. She has the little Beam mug. Every morning when she wakes up, she throws the window open, ready to take on the day. She says, "Hey, fuck you, day. You're going down. Soon as I get out there, you better not be on my front porch when I open the door." Every once in a while, she kicks the mailman in the balls. He happens to be there.
I don't know about any of that. And again, this is not advisable if you live in a tenement or something. But Jim,
if you live in a tenement, you need even more help getting to sleep to forget about the fucking hovel you live in.
Once again, let's talk about the sleep. Let's focus on the sleep. Let's focus on the sleep. You can be anywhere you want when you have a good night's sleep.
You can't just sleep on a goddamn, just on a mound in the middle of the interstate.
Well, I meant like if you have a good dream. In your dreams, you could be anywhere. You could be in Tahiti.
Well, you're going to be flat on your back in the morgue if you go to sleep on the interstate.
Well, don't do that.
And a lot of people should, you know what? A lot of people shouldn't be sleeping so much, because if they live in a tenement, like you said, then they ought to be out working, trying to better their conditions.
Maybe they are.
In that case,
there's a hardworking man there.
Well, they're all hopped up on the Beam Dream Powder, just sleeping willy-nilly.
No, again, no one's hopped up on anything, but if you use the Beam Dream Powder, you will get a great night's sleep. I think that's kind of what you were really meant to say.
Well, yes, that's without saying. It goes without saying, because we say it all the time.
We should just say it. I think we should say it.
Well, say it, man. You're going to sleep a lot better with Beam Dream Powder. But you got to be honest with yourself. Am I a person that has attained the successful status in life that I should go to sleep? Because some people out there still need to be up and working, getting their ass out of the tenements, getting themselves a good job with a secure future instead of sleeping their lives away. Only order the Beam Dream Powder at ShopBeam, BEAM, shopbeam.com if you feel like you deserve it, because you've attained some type of status in the community. You're not just leeching off the government.
That's right. If you feel you deserve it.
Yes, if you deserve it. And here's something. If you've worked hard, ladies and gentlemen, if you have worked hard and you feel like you can afford to go to sleep now, well, you're going to save up to 40% off right now.
That's right. An important thing to note. And I'm glad you brought that up, Jim. A great deal for the listeners, a great night's sleep with a great deal that'll help you sleep even better, knowing you saved money.
Yes. Well, you'll sleep better knowing that you've screwed these people out of 40% of their revenue here.
I wouldn't look at it that way. No.
Yes.
No.
Well, I'm telling you, it's absolutely true that if you go to ShopBeam right now, ShopBeam, BEAM.com/JCE, and use the code JCE, you're going to save up to 40% off on the incredible Beam Dream Powder. ShopBeam.com/JCE, use the code JCE at checkout, and you're going to save, well, just up to 40% off, as I've just said. And that only if you deserve this now. If you've been working hard, minding your P's and Q's, and you've got somewhat of a successful style of living going on, then you could afford to go to sleep. But if you still need to be out there in the trenches, I think you need to spend a few sleepless nights so you'll further your standards.
Once again, a great night's sleep and a great deal. The Dream Powder from Beam. Jim, what's that promo code one more time?
JCE. That's no next day grogginess, just real deep, almost suspended animation type of sleep.
Not almost suspended. We were right there at the end. A great night's sleep, that promo code.
JCE. They've improved 17.5 million nights of sleep. Let them improve yours.